Welcome to Whole Team Eats podcast, a 24/8 media production. Ever wonder who trains your favorite athlete? Join Tim Miller as he takes a look at the behind-the-scenes training of professional and collegiate athletes. Tim connects with trainers, athletes, and others in the sports community to share their stories. This podcast is dedicated to highlighting the work of athletes and trainers to inspire action and build community.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to an all-new episode of Whole Team Eats podcast. This is episode 12, season 2. I'm your host, Tim Miller, and on the show, I sit down with NFL safety Anthony Harris. Growing up in Richmond, Virginia, Ant was always immersed in sports, with his main sports being football and basketball. Basketball was a main focus of Ant's through high school and attributes a lot of his movement, in-game IQ, spatial awareness, and hand-eye coordination to it. These skills played a big role in Ant's development as an athlete and helped him receive a scholarship to play football at the University of Virginia. On the show, we discuss how after a successful career playing football at the University of Virginia, going undrafted was a bit of a surprise. Ant had a few setbacks when it came to injuries that may have played a role in him not receiving an opportunity sooner. Ant was able to make the most of his opportunities when they did present themselves and is now entering his 9th season in the NFL. It's my pleasure to introduce Anthony Harris to the show. Anthony, welcome to Whole Team Eats.
Thanks for having me.
So we actually got connected through one of the trainers that we've actually had on our podcast, Troy Jones of House of Athlete. He was on our podcast in season 1. But I just kind of want to take a step back where most of my episodes start. We interview a lot of trainers. We're starting to interview more athletes. But how has the off season? How has training been in 2023?
Training has been great. I've partnered up with Troy this past off season. I had heard a lot about him, been recommended by a few teammates, college teammates, a few years back. But I decided to move down to Florida this past 2 years ago, and I reached out to him. We've been working one-on-one for a while now, so he's really been helping me.
And is his style of training different from anything you were doing previously, or like what attracted you to his style of training and House of Athlete in general?
Well, for me, I've always been the type of player who wants to, continue to get better and continue to search for different styles of training. I think as my career has progressed, I continue to learn more about, the game, the requirements, learn more about my physical body, and then just figure out, what I need to work on each and every off season. So it's kind of changed a little bit over the years. Working with Troy Jones, I've heard a lot about how detailed his work is. I'm working with the one-on-one right now, so I'm seeing that firsthand. But we're really working on, all the functional stuff, really tapping into those small muscles, some of those muscles that help you with the quick twitch and the different movements. So I've kind of shifted now. I went through the strength phase, went through the explosive phase, but it's been more on, functional movement and body control.
Yeah, and you beat me to it. So you were talking about how the training has evolved, probably even since your high school or early college days to where we are now, but not even just the last decade how training has evolved, but over your playing career, was there more of an emphasis on just strength training in the beginning and now a functional movement towards injury prevention type training at this point in your career as you're, 7-8 years in your career at this point?
Yeah, it has progressed. Each season is different. Each season brings, new challenges, different adversities. And so for me, it started off, strength and speed, a little bit of mobility there. And then as you go through the career, you have a few injuries here and there, whether they're small or major. You want to be able to recover from those and, be able to, reach your full potential and continue to play at a high level. So for me, it was just about, taking a step back, knowing that, I'm going into year 9. The strength's there. The speed is something that you just have to continue to work and continue to maintain. And that's just a philosophy that I believe in is, if you don't train it, you lose it. So the speed training is always there. The strength training is there, but started to push a little bit more towards, focus on those small muscles, focus on more control through the movements and being able to really break that down to each layer and kind of restack it and build it back up I've seen improvements this off season and just working with Troy with that one-on-one aspect, slowing things down, working the movement patterns, and then speeding it up. So to kind of see everything coming together, it's something that I've really learned from him in terms of, going back and really kind of getting back to the fundamentals and the basics and really just training to be a good athlete. Even though I'm a pro football player, it's about just having the best mobility you can have, being responsive and mobile in different positions. So really pushing those limits to get the best.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because Troy, when we had him on, was talking about building an athlete from the ground up, right? And he was looking at things that gymnasts did in their training and tried to apply those same principles to athletes of different sports like football or baseball or hockey or any other sport that he trains. But starting to implement those different principles across all sports was something that was important to Troy. And you're getting to see firsthand working one-on-one how meticulous Troy is about his work, right? So he put a big emphasis, especially explained to our listeners on, you said if you don't use it, you'll lose it with when it comes to speed and making sure that you're training speed year in, year out as you get older and further into your career. But Troy Jones put an emphasis on education, so constantly educating himself as he's got a responsibility to not only himself but his clients to constantly be improving himself and his training and adapting to time and science and everything else that goes into training. So I think we just want to take a step back. We're going to go into Troy Jones and House Athlete a little bit further into the podcast, but your background. So you grew up in Virginia, you went to high school there. You want to take us through that progression, college football, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. Played football and basketball majority of my childhood. And it wasn't until, high school, sophomore year where I really took the turn and started to focus more on football. For me, basketball was the full-time thing. Through spring basketball, through AAU travel, it was more frequent for me. So I believe from there is where I kind of really developed a lot of my movement, a lot of my IQ for, spatial awareness and just being able to read different things, as well as the hand-eye coordination and kind of plyo aspect of just like the running and constantly jumping and changing directions. But once I got back on the football field, I played quarterback, wide receiver, and I played corner on defense. I felt like, that basketball background really helped me in terms of just like my overall movement and being very aware on the field. So I played there, finished up, ended up attending the University of Virginia, where I played safety. Um, and then from there, it was just, working to get to the next level. When I was in high school, I had a dream of playing college football. Didn't really look too far down the road for the NFL, but it was something that I wanted to do, and just took it one step at a time. Had a good high school career, great college career, and then progressed to the NFL where I just continued to try to chase my dreams.
Yeah, and in your time in UVA, you were teammates with Ronnie McLeod, another safety. I think he was a junior, senior when you were a freshman. What is it like having somebody on the team who you later played in your NFL career on the Philadelphia Eagles with once again, but was as a player on the field? Did you look up to some of those upperclassmen when you were in college as kind of a role model for how to train, how to study, things of that nature?
Yeah, for me, it was just all about, how can I get better each day? Trying to take a look around, whether it was guys in college, guys in the NFL, who were doing some of the things that I wanted to do. But for me, I also knew it was important that, I had to be myself. But there was a ton of things you can learn about, being a professional or being a high level college athlete. So, a guy like Rodney coming in as a freshman, he was a senior, he was starting, had some success there at the program. I did look towards him and a number of other guys in just terms of like work ethic, figuring out how they studied the game, and just how they carried themselves. So to be able to spend some time with them there, and then again in Philadelphia, it was a smooth transition. To be able to have that relationship, to be able to have open dialogue and understand and him understand that anything that we said to each other was coming from a good place. that we could both be our best selves and help the team get better.
So when you graduate UVA, you go, I believe, undrafted to Minnesota. Is that correct? What is that like? And I know it seems like everything just progressed on paper, like you went high school to UVA to the pros, but it's not really the case, right? There's always setbacks or hardships along the way. What was it like going undrafted, having to prove yourself, and ultimately, it worked out in your favor. You made the team, and you've been in the NFL. You're going on year 9 now, so you are one of the success stories who comes in as an undrafted free agent. But what was it like not getting drafted and then having to work your way onto the team?
For me, it was just about just focusing on who I am. Focus on my principles. Sticking to the foundation of what I believe in, and that's just simply, if there's something that you want, you got to go out there and work for it each and every day. And you have to prove that you deserve to be where you are. And regardless of how you start, it's you can always finish a lot better than what you start. So the opportunity is there. So going undrafted after having a good career there at UVA, um, it came as a little bit as a surprise. There were high expectations about getting drafted, but um, it's the NFL draft. There are a ton of surprises. So for me, it was just about staying even keel, not getting too high, not getting too low, but just understanding that the talent that I have and just waiting on that opportunity. So once I signed as an undrafted free agent, for me it was just about getting to work. I came out, I was injured, um, had shoulder surgery and hand surgery, so I knew that could possibly be a reason why I wasn't given an opportunity sooner. But for me, it was just about let me get back to work and get myself physically where I know I can be. And mentally, that's where I was. Mentally, I was 100% ready to go. It was just about giving my body the time to catch up. And once those two things came together, I had an opportunity come, and I just kind of took off from there.
Yeah, and some of those setbacks, injuries, going undrafted, it doesn't seem like it in the when it happens, but sometimes it's the best case scenario for you to land where you did, and you had a great career or start to your career in Minnesota. Obviously, we're in here in Philadelphia, 24/8 Media, so we're big Eagles fans. We were happy to have you on the team and have you come back on the team for the Super Bowl run. But I wanted to take a step back to training again. Just go back into Troy Jones and kind of your guys' relationship as it's kind of evolved here over the past year or two. But what stands out to him, and not to say other trainers aren't good or they're different, but what stood out in choosing a trainer? Like what goes into the decision to work with a trainer? Because we know that when an athlete decides to work with a trainer, it's one of the biggest investments they can make. Your body, staying healthy, your availability is really how you continue to play year after year in the NFL. So choosing a trainer is essential to having a long NFL career. What goes into it for you as far as choosing the right trainer based on your needs?
For me, it's just always just been a student, and not even just a student of the game, but just in general. Always being open to continuing to learn, continue to better myself. And when there's guidance, that's always great. But at the same time, for me, I want to understand it. So that was one thing after being with Troy that I noticed right away, and that I had heard previously from a number of other athletes was you know, the type of communication and the type of relationship that you can have. For me, it's just back and forth dialogue. And a lot of times it's me giving them feedback on what I feel, how I kind of understand things, or how I can relate it back to what he's trying to convey. And I think that has also helped take me to the next level physically as well. Is just being able to communicate with them how I'm feeling, how my body's responding, what I really want to improve on, well, what's really showing up that we're working on, what's showing up on the field and translating really well. So the relationship between me and him has been great from that standpoint, and just pushing me. You want to have a good relationship with your trainer, but when you're in the gym or when you're on the field, you want to be getting work done. So that has to be a relationship that you can have other dialogue outside of the training, but when it's go time in the weight room or on the field, you two get to it. So for me, that's kind of how this ride has been so far, and I'm excited for that opportunity. So I enjoyed my time in Philly. They got to see me out there for a bit, but I mean, I'm gonna be excited, even more excited now after really just honing in, getting the time to really dissect my game, dissect my body, and I feel like I'm in a great position, and that's credited to Troy.
Yeah, it's great to hear the communication aspect of it with Troy, and we're hearing that more and more from both athletes and trainers that a reason why they work with a specific trainer or their main thing they try to do with athletes, if you're on the trainer side, is communication, right? How is that athlete responding to the training? How are our training aligning with that athlete's goals? There's different specifics that go into it's not like a template for one athlete fits all type deal. It's what works for Anthony Harris might not work for another player or another player of another sport. So there are principles that can be shared amongst different athletes and different athletes of, in specific positions as you as a defensive back, that might apply to you. But there's always a level of personalization that comes with training. And we believe that Troy Jones is one of the best at what he does when it comes to that communication and personalization in training. One thing at 24/8 Media that we try to highlight is a lot of different trainers and athletes in their behind the scenes training. And that's really how we got connected, was kind of finding Troy and ultimately finding you and you guys working together. But there is a lot of time that goes into, your body, whether it's training or nutrition or recovery. Working back from injuries is a big part of it. And we try to highlight that although in a regular season there's 17 weeks in the NFL season plus playoffs, the fans, all of us are fans, we get to see you for 2.5, 3 hours one time a week, right, for 17 weeks. But all year round, you're spent working, whether it's off season or in season, on your bodies, making sure that you're prepared and ready to jump on the field when your number's called. So what we try to do is highlight that behind the scenes work. But my question to you is, how difficult is it to, when you work out as frequently as you do at a professional athlete level, stay motivated day in, day out? Because you're not just working out, but it's intense. You're doing 2-3 sessions a day. Do you ever find it difficult to remain motivated as you get older in your career?
No, for me, it's a challenge. It's not easy, but nothing really is. And especially at this level, if you want it, you really got to go out there and get it. So for me, I love the game. I love the to keep growing, the understanding the details in the work. Whether that's the training, whether that's defensive schemes, offensive schemes. For me, that's what I really get a thrill from. So to be able to get up every day, and go in and work hard, put the sweat in, and then see results, and understand, as long as I continue to have the right mindset, as I continue to go in and I continue to take the coaching, even in year 9, and just going in with a mindset that there's always room for improvement. Um, as long as I keep doing that, and I go in and I get that feeling like, okay, I'm getting better. It makes it a lot easier. And then there are times when you go in and a rep doesn't look how you want, but I guess that's kind of like golf. You take a bad swing, it's not good. You get a little bit frustrated or whatever, but you just get back to it. And I think that that's part of the mental game. And I think you have to have a strong mindset to play at a high level, for a consistent and a lengthy time in the NFL.
Yeah, I think golf is a great sport to compare it to, right? A very humbling sport.
Yeah.
You go out and it's almost nice to see some of those professionals mess up once in a while, because you realize that it's such a difficult sport to play. Any sport at a professional level is difficult to play, and we know that it takes a lot of time and preparation into your body and into your study of you as a position player, to make sure that you're ready to go. But I did want to ask you. So we're here in Philadelphia. You've obviously been around the league a little bit over your 9 years. Um, we have a very passionate fan base. You were part of the team that went to the Super Bowl last year. Although we didn't win the Super Bowl, you were still a part of that journey. Um, Now, I'm biased because I'm from Philadelphia, but is our fan base a little bit different than other cities that you've played in? Or have you noticed a difference in how well the fans travel, or how passionate they are about their sports?
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that I'm familiar with for sure. Even prior to my time in Philadelphia, just understanding that's what that fan base is. They're very passionate. Um, and with that, sometimes, it can come as a bit hostile to some people. But as a player, who grew up dreaming about playing in the NFL, you think about this diehard fan base. You think about this, nationwide supporting cast of people who come, they tailgate, they're there before you're there, and they're there after you leave. So that's kind of what the Philly band's fan base is, and to be a part of that and be a part of a group that loves the game, wants to win just as much as you do, and they show up, each and every game and show that support with their loud cheers and also often sometimes boos if you're not performing at a high level. I think that that's something that's really special. And even times when those like boos don't sound as good, you still have to appreciate it in a sense that um, you could be performing a lot better, but also that stage and that support and that type of care for the results of the game is all part of it.
Yeah, and I think coming from a Philadelphia fan and myself is the one thing we always appreciate is that effort. So as long as you see our athletes, putting in that consistent work, and what we're trying to kind of put on display is all the behind the scenes training that people like an Anthony Harris is doing entire offseason, is all the effort and hard work that you're putting in. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, but we do appreciate that hard work and effort. I did want to ask, so you have a foundation, the Anthony Harris Foundation. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that foundation and what you've done since you started it just a few years ago?
Yeah, so I have the Anthony Harris Foundation, which I started in efforts to show support for the youth through school education, mentorship, and sports. So for me, it's just about giving back, providing support to not only the youth, but anybody as well who might need support. So I've done things in the community, such as, back to school drives, giving out book bags, school supplies, during the holidays, Thanksgiving, turkey drives to provide families who may not have an easy as opportunity to provide meals for themselves during the Christmas holidays, providing a wish list for the youth for an opportunity to receive a gift or a toy or whatever that may be, something that they just want and could appreciate during those holidays times. But also just helping in the community in terms of providing a number of laptops to a film school for kids who really enjoy film. So it's not all based around sports part of it, but the education aspect. Technology is growing, so to be able to provide laptops to kids to learn more about the internet, learn more about technology, learn more about developing films and different things of those sorts. It provides them with an opportunity to experience something new, to be exposed to things that they might not have the opportunity to be exposed to, and essentially give them an opportunity to chase their dreams or be able to learn a little bit more about themselves and kind of where they want to go in terms of life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And people always think it's going to be sports focused for some of these sports player foundations, but I've read a stat that you've raised over $100,000 since 2021, which is incredible. So giving back and giving laptops, and it's really just the resources to be successful for underserved youth, right? So it never goes unnoticed and much appreciated. You've done a lot of work in Philadelphia as well, which we always love to see. Just to kind of start to wrap up here, just have a few final questions. But I always like to ask, whether it's an athlete or a trainer, is there any specific mentors through your playing career or your training career that you've really looked up to or have kind of pushed you in the right direction when it comes to either training or actual play on the field?
For me, I had a number, players that I looked at in terms of just, watching them play, and kind of really learning how they play the game and had a strong appreciation for it. And I think that that's something that I picked up on, in terms of, just being that player that goes out, has a lot of fun, works extremely hard in the off season, plays with a ton of passion, tries to be that guy to, not only perform at a high level as an individual, but also try to help others around them raise that level of play, and raise that level of performance, on the field, off the field, in the community. That's something that I really, pride myself on. And part of that is just my upbringing through sports, having different coaches, having different relatives, kind of pull me to the side and just give me words of encouragement to, keep going, to, stay on the right track, and kind of reminding me, the things that it takes to be not only a good player, but a good person in the community as well. From that aspect, I think I really picked up, about just being a good teammate, being a good neighbor, and from there is just trying to do that at a consistent level, and really just trying to inspire others along my journey because I've been inspired by a number of other people. Some people I may know personally, some people may who I may know from a distance, or just kind of keeping track of their careers or things that they're doing in the community. Is kind of where I've picked up my inspiration from.
And one thing I wanted to circle back to was you mentioned your career in basketball at the beginning of the show. Do you ever think about a career in basketball if you hadn't chose football? Do you think you would have had a professional career in basketball?
Possibly, possibly. It's kind of hard to tell now as I've gotten this far down the road. But I guess I will say before the recruiting kind of picked up in football, through AAU travel, going to a number of tournaments, playing at different all-star camps across the country. It really exposed me to the level of competition. And oftentimes, I look back at the NBA now. Some guys are still playing. Some had a shorter career, but to be able to compete against a number of guys who were in my class at the time, or maybe a year above me or below me, to see how that kind of panned out. I'd like to think with just the dedication and the work that I possibly had a chance. Not quite the freakish tallest guy. I'm no 6'7" figure guy, but for me, it was just about working your craft, developing a skill set, and I think that those things possibly could have gave me an opportunity to do something.
And just one last question to finish up here. But one question I like to ask every athlete or trainer is what advice would you give yourself to start your career, and would you change anything about your journey or career to this point?
Um, if I could have changed it, we would have won the Super Bowl last year if I'd have wrote the script.
That's a good one. I'll give you that.
No, no, but for my younger self, I would just tell myself, to enjoy the process, but to continue to work every day, continue to show up, whether that's on the field, in the community, and like you have something to prove because you do. Each day you show up to work or you're on the field, you have to prove that you deserve to be there. So from that standpoint, it's just stay patient, always remain hungry, continue to give praise to your Lord and Savior for the opportunity, and then just continue to make impacts on others, and also just continue to be who you are, continue to be your best self. A lot of times you hear the comparison between different players, um, whether this player is better, that player is better, whether it's LeBron or Kobe or Jordan. But really just be your best self. I mean, it's okay to, take a glance at someone else's game, and see how you can improve on different things, but, do what you do best.
And I think no matter what profession it is, whether it's professional sports or anything else, being your best version of yourself is extremely important, right? There's always a time to compare and learn from others, but being the best version of yourself is ultimately, what's going to help you propel yourself moving forward. So once again, NFL safety Anthony Harris, it was a pleasure having you on the show. We appreciate you taking out the time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you all.